عم بتصل فيك مشان الشغالة المحطوطة على الانترنت عندك.
للأمانة الشهادة لا ما أساسها بيه زينة، ولو دقعتها الساعة 5 الفجر ما تكشف نفسها وزينة.
فينا نشوفها؟
انت وجه الأسئلة.
لا هذه شوف الناس اللي أنا قاعد أقول.
وجهها بشوش طيب وراح أقول لكم الصدق يعني
This is child labor, child trafficking. It's sad and disgusting.
Imagine this. The social media apps you use every day are actually being used to enable modern-day slavery. Sounds a little absurd, doesn't it? Unfortunately, it is the dark truth. Popular tech platforms are used to trade women from poor countries as domestic workers in the Middle East. BBC News filmed a documentary exposing a website called For Sale, selling women and children online in Kuwait. Despite this knowledge, Silicon Valley giants like Facebook, Google, and Meta have done little to stop this. And it raises a crucial question. How long will tech companies turn a blind eye to modern slavery on their own platforms? Imagine opening up your everyday online shopping app, but you're not browsing through new clothes or electronics. Instead, you're looking at profiles of women categorized by race available for sale as domestic workers. This is the disturbing reality uncovered by BBC News Arabic's investigation into the Middle Eastern online trade of domestic workers. Through popular tech platforms like For Sale and even Instagram, women from some of the poorest parts of the world are sold like commodities, treated as possessions with price tags. Silicon Valley's tech platforms were built to make life easier and more connected, with just a few taps enabling you to hire help, book services, or connect with others. But this convenience has a dark side. These platforms have become powerful tools in the hands of those who exploit vulnerable women, providing a digital marketplace that facilitates illegal and abusive labor practices. For many of these women, what starts as a chance to support their families back home turns into a nightmare, living in inhumane conditions, unable to leave, and at the mercy of whoever has bought their contract.
Where they want to wake you up, they said, Haywan. Haywan means animal. Animal, wake up, you need to do your job.
يا حيوانة يا
Yalla, yalla.
In a groundbreaking investigation, BBC News Arabic went undercover in Kuwait, posing as a newly arrived couple looking to buy a domestic worker. What they found was shocking. Platforms like Instagram, which is owned by Facebook, and commodity apps like For Sale and Haraj were being used to host listings of women available for sale. Sellers openly marketed these women, showcasing their photos with captions that described them in dehumanizing terms: African, clean and smiley, or Nepalese who dares to ask for a day off. In just a few taps, one could filter by nationality and price, making the process of buying a human being as straightforward as shopping for goods. This wasn't an isolated issue. The investigation found that such listings weren't only allowed, but were promoted through algorithm-boosting hashtags and private messages, all on platforms run by companies like Google, Apple, and Facebook, despite these companies' official policies against human trafficking. When notified, Facebook removed one of the hashtags, but the majority of listings remained.
اوكي اوكي انا اخلي الموضوع كله للحرمه، انا عشان كل هذا الموضوع عشان هي يعني
انا عندي رساله 1000 واحد
اوكي
ولا طقت من اصلا طقت
شو اسمه؟
ساره احنا نناديها اسمها ما ادري شنو.
Some sellers encouraged illegal practices, such as confiscating passports, restricting movement, and denying basic human rights. They advised potential buyers to keep these women confined, treat them as possessions, and strictly limit their access to communication. A Kuwaiti policeman casually mentioned to the undercover team that the domestic workers were used like commodities, their ownership transferred for profit. You can buy a maid for 600 KD, $2,000, and sell her for 1,000 KD, $3,300. He explained, showing how people viewed this trade as just another transaction.
قد ايه عمرك؟ اقول لكم الصدق اترك الاوراق، اقول لكم الصدق يعني عشان ترى ما استفدش الاوراق شيء بس تعرف ان هناك يغيرون عشان الرزق.
One of the most disturbing findings was the story of Fatou, a 16-year-old girl from Guinea sent to Kuwait. Fatou had been trafficked from Guinea in West Africa and had been employed as a domestic worker in Kuwait for 6 months when the BBC discovered her. Kuwait's laws say that domestic workers must be over 21. Her seller's sales pitch included the facts that she had given Fatou no time off. Her passport and phone had been taken away and she had not allowed her to leave the house alone, all of which are illegal in Kuwait.
شوفي هذا بابا هذا ماما اسمها اسمها عربي لأنها مسلمة.
من غانا ولا من
وين؟ أنا أنسى من كذا ما غانا غينا مدري شنو.
من وين؟
ها؟
غينيا. Okay.
These women leave their homes with hopes of supporting their families, believing they will find work and stability. But instead of employment, they enter a brutal system that treats them as property. Forced to work long hours with no breaks, they live in constant fear, often confined to their employers' homes and cut off from any form of outside contact. Their passports are taken, their movements restricted, and any requests for basic freedoms are met with threats or worse. So many of them endure verbal and physical abuse daily with no options for escape.
إجازة بتاخد إجازة؟
لا احنا ككويتيين ما نخليه صراحة احنا مجرمين.
اوكي.
لا ممنوع شنو ما يصير اجازات ما نعطي اجازات ولا يوم ولا دقيقة ولا حاجة.
والقانون ايش بقول طيب؟
القانون احنا ما نمشي على.
Now, if you're thinking that perhaps these big companies simply don't know what's happening, you're mistaken. Where do these sales happen? On Facebook, Instagram, or websites on Google. They display specific ads categorizing slaves by race, age, nationality, or even work ethic. It's simply not enough for tech companies to maintain policies against human trafficking. Their platforms are still flooded with these illegal listings. The investigation just confirmed that the platforms responded to these human rights violations very slowly. All Facebook did was remove a single hashtag, while Google and Apple gave statements expressing concern without imposing strict regulations. This complicity goes beyond passive inaction. These companies are essentially allowing modern slavery to flourish. Each listing, each transaction represents not just a failure of technology, but a stark failure of ethics and responsibility. For the tech giants, the unchecked growth of their platforms seems to outweigh any concern for human rights. This online slave market didn't develop unnoticed. Activists, human rights organizations, and even former workers have been raising red flags for years. They've appealed to the tech companies, shared evidence, and demanded change. Yet these warnings seem to go largely ignored. The tech giants claim to prioritize safety and anti-trafficking measures, but their actions tell a different story. The need for platform growth, user engagement, and profit appears to overshadow any call to safeguard the vulnerable. The stories behind these online slave markets reveal a harsh truth. While vulnerable women suffer in silence, tech giants continue to profit, turning a blind eye to their plight. As calls for accountability grow louder, it's clear that convenient excuses and hollow promises are no longer enough. If these platforms remain unchecked, how many more lives will be traded away before true change is made?